You are listening to Armchair Healthcare, a podcast on pills, placebos, and policy.
All right, welcome to Armchair Healthcare. What do we got, Max?
We got a few things. One thing is that it looks like AbbVie might have flushed about $5.8 billion down the toilet.
Yes. Rova-T,
Yes.
Rova-Toilet. Is that what we're going to call it
Yes,
now?
Rova-Toilet. Need some Roto-Rooter for Rova-T, something like that. They were in a trial for second-line small cell lung cancer, and their survival was worse than topotecan.
Yeah, so not only did they just develop a bad drug, they statistically killed some people.
Well, no, it's versus topotecan, I believe. So it wasn't just placebo.
Well, yeah, but if you would have lived longer otherwise, you got statistically murdered.
I'm not sure if it was a statistically significant result. I think it was just it was at least trending negatively. I mean, it's really hard.
If we're going to give people, if we're going to be that harsh on people for, not reaching statistical significance, on the positive side, we should do the same for the negative side as well. I'm sorry I rounded up.
Yes. Do not listen to us for investing, statistical advice, or
medical advice. Certainly not medical advice. That's a really bad idea.
I mean, but small cell lung cancer, especially second line, is really hard. I mean, these patients are just progressing and dying at really fast rates. It's kind of hard to really make any difference. And there have been some other recent failures in it. The only one left I saw that's kind of major in terms of late stage trials is lurbinectedin from PharmaMar. Mm-hmm. But we don't really have that much prior data on it. Jack West is kind of excited by it. It's one of those a marine derived chemotherapy.
Yeah, Rova-T is also in the class of drugs targeting cancer stem cells, which nothing has had any traction at all in.
No, it's true, but there was I think more of a theoretical basis for cancer stem cells than for a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, rub it on your skin for to release wrinkles.
Yeah, cancer stem cells. There was actually some. I mean, I remember going to some ASCO presentations early on about that. It's there was some basis to it.
I'm just making fun of them. Cancer stem cells are just the idea that there's some cells in your tumor that are sort of like the progenitors for the rest of the tumor. If you can kill them, and then everything dies. People thought this was a great, cool thing because they would disassociate all the cells from a tumor, and then saw that only some of those cells would grow back into tumors. But as with many things, tumors are pretty complex, and
yes, I believe now they're targeting the tumor microenvironment. That's the
tumor microenvironment.
That's the buzzword.
That's not even a good buzzword. That's the same sort of angiogenesis type stuff.
Oh, that was big. I mean,
well, angiogenesis was big, but I mean, that's the same sort of buzzword as they were using back then.
Yeah.
Most of those failed too.
And but Avastin did succeed pretty well.
Yeah.
But now they're kind of saying we don't really think it was doing what we thought it was doing, but it still worked somehow.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it might have just been hitting. Yeah, just another growth factor. These growth factors, they always seem to work. Just stick with the growth factors, guys. I guess. So somebody quoting on today, I think it was Derek Lowe was linked to an older article of his where he talked about just the fact that the whole cancer stem cell hypothesis has sort of fallen apart in the basic literature. They did these tests where they dissociated cells. And then later people went back to sort of replicate this, and they saw that the majority or a strong minority of cells are actually these progenitors. So it's just like the tumor. Mm-hmm. Most of those cells are actually, at least in certain cases,
it's just the tumor.
It's just there's maybe some difference between them, but it's some will grow, but sometimes it's as much as 25%. Of cells, okay. Not some small fraction where you just need to kill the little tiny lump of stem cells. Which makes sense. The vast majority of mutations in cancer are ones that sort of revert it back to a more stem cell-like state, and they stop sort of controlling themselves as much, or they can stop controlling the mutation rate, their DNA, and these sorts of things. So there's a whole de-differentiation aspect theory of cancer as well, which is basically the opposite of the cancer stem cell idea. But
anyway, so Stemcentrx looks like it's probably one of the biggest duds in the history of pharmaceutical acquisitions in terms of billions. I mean, this was
it was
$5.8 billion.
It was a record at the time, if I remember.
Well, see, with milestones, it could have been up to 10.2.
Okay, so maybe that was a record.
Yeah, but it was really 5.8 is like kind of like the upfront portion. I mean, you could argue that Synageva by Alexion is a bigger dud.
Yeah, but that was afterwards, right? That was after.
Well, they got approved, but there's no sales, so I don't know. And in terms of time, I think it was around the same time.
Okay.
That was, I mean, Synageva is like, what's Alexion's market cap now anyway? It's probably like 20, 30 billion. Like it used to be much higher, and they bought this company. It's like, oh, it's just a small part. Now it's like, wow, that's like a third of your market cap you wasted on this, bag full of crap.
It's yeah.
But
they're always willing to take that risk.
Yeah, it's other people's money. It's all about other people's money.
Oh,
they don't care.
Unless you're AbbVie and you're actually making money, then it's kind of your money.
Well, no, well, yeah.
AbbVie is just if desperate to find anything.
Well, if you're a corporation, it's still other people's money. It's they have Humira, which is just making them like over $20 billion a year. So yeah, they can waste billions. They don't even care. It doesn't even move their needle.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and in terms of going on the other people's money theme, so Moderna, so they're supposed to price tonight and go public tomorrow.
Okay.
Although markets right now are down like 450 points, in the
sounds
Dow.
like a really good time to be really risky.
Yes, a perfect time to buy a multi-billion-dollar phase 1/2 company that burns about $250 million a year.
In RNA.
Yeah, in RNA that has had to change their strategy drastically, at least I think twice.
Yes.
So, but what's interesting though, because it's other people's money, the management pays themselves like they're large pharma execs, or at least maybe Mike Weiss from TG Therapeutics. So, like the CEO, his total package last year was $6.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
The president, $23.9 million.
That's a big paycheck.
Yes. I mean, that's,
and we should note that a large part of that is options, right?
Yeah, but still, that's a pretty large option award.
That's a pretty large option award.
I mean,
and hence why these guys are really desperate to get this guy listed.
Yeah.
Because they are going to make so much money here.
Oh, yeah.
Instantaneously.
And the venture guys, like they printed what the average price was. Like they're trying to go public around like $24 a share.
Oh,
the average venture price was like $6.
This is what you're really buying, guys. When you pay for this, when you pay for Moderna, you're paying for like a little bit of tech and some big whopping management payouts.
Yes. I mean, think about it. Between just the top 3 execs, the CEO, president, and CFO, they cost $40 million in 1 year. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yes.
And then I looked at the directors. Now, from what I remember, directors are paid like, I mean, usually you're like talking about like $25,000 to like $100,000 all in. They're all making like, I could be wrong there. I could be wrong. But they're all making like $350K just out of being the board of this company.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Because it's such a good company.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot involved with helping run it because it's just, one giant shit show. But like, still, it's like you have other people's money. You spend it. Obviously, the directors, they're getting paid. They're making sure the management gets paid. There's literally no reason for this. It's like I looked at what the president did before. I mean, he was a doctor, and then he was a McKinsey consultant, and then he was at like one other company, and it wasn't like some big, huge, smashing success.
He's not like a former like Amgen guy.
Yeah, you would expect him to be like, former Amgen CFO or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But no.
I haven't looked into this. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, they're just
he's just structured this to make himself rich.
Yes.
He's
no
not
matter
being
what
compensated
happens.
because he's some famous director that might have some insight. He's just some guy wanting to become rich.
Yes, and I mean, he even got like part of it was a $4 million lump sum bonus.
For what?
Just it doesn't say why. Like they have the letter in the S1 where they grant it to him, but apparently it's just, I don't know. It's almost like a retention bonus.
I thought the shareholders had a vote on this sort of crap. You know what I mean?
Oh, when it's private, yeah, you get the shareholders around the table.
Okay, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot.
easy.
We don't have anything on these guys yet, but we'll see it.
Yeah, the S1 is very long. And we'll see. It reminds me of like a Millennium Pharmaceuticals 10K from like 2003. Just like a lot of programs, you have no idea what to make out of any of them. Like a little hat or a pterodactyl or a brooch.
Okay, so here's given they've since approved some RNA drugs, but the thing with RNA, and the thing why you have to be wary of any company developing anything that's RNA is because you can turn up a new program like overnight. All you have to do is have the sequence of the gene that you want to target or put into somewhere or take out of somewhere or anything like that. You can send it off to the lab, get that sequence, put it into an RNA, mix it with your special sauce, and then you've got a program. Now you've got something that's going to, and it's also going to have all the same tox, all the same PK, everything else that has that secret sauce that you have is going to have. So you can just, like Moderna has done, whip up 20 freaking programs.
I was just going to say they have 20 programs.
Yeah, they have 20 programs, but there's the barrier to actually researching these guys and setting them up and starting them is like nothing. So how many of them are good? How much have they been vetted? Yeah, at least with a small molecule, you have to sit there and design the goddamn thing. You're sitting there designing it, tweaking it, optimizing it for a long time. Whereas this, it's just like, boom, one program after another, boom, another program. Oh, is this a good idea? Let's try it out. Boom, another program.
It's in discovery.
Yeah. And given they had to, like, their secret sauce, that's what will make or break this, is does their special coating on their RNAs get this crap where it needs to go in the body? So it's not just all gobbled up by your liver like every other RNA program that's ever happened, right? Which, mind you, if you're targeting the liver, much more viable solution, right? If you're not targeting the liver, then you've got to have some good special sauce. And who knows? That's all. Everything is, if that stuff works, every one of their programs will work. But no one's really figured it out that well yet. And I think they've already redone theirs from the start, like their RNA delivery technology. They just completely reinvented it at least once. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I know they went from like just doing drugs, then they're doing vaccines, now they're doing a little bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem with vaccines, and vaccines are the worst thing in the world to target with RNA, right? Is if you have some sort of an infection, right? The sort of tragic beauty of a virus or a bacteria or anything else like that is that you can have one virus in your body in some cases, and it can grow into millions and billions and trillions in a matter of days, right? So you really have to get every goddamn one. And the problem with RNA is that even in the best of circumstances, in a lab, in a petri dish, the most we can ever impact anything is around 90%. Mm-hmm. So it's true of a lot of things where you're knocking down or knocking up something using a messenger. In circumstances where you can have a 90% change in something and see some good clinical effects, then it can work. And there are things like that. Sickle cell is actually like that. If you get like something above like over a certain percentage of somebody's hemoglobin actually well-folded hemoglobin, they're okay. They don't have any symptoms anymore. So you don't have to get to 100%, right? But a lot of things like vaccines, you really do. That's why you can be like test negative for, say, Hep C, and they have to test you again at 24 weeks later to make sure you have a sustained viral response, because they won't be able to find it, but then it'll grow back, right? And that's the real endpoint. So, yeah, that's my take.
Anyway, so another interesting piece of news was so with the weed stocks, there's
the weed stocks.
The weed stocks.
The weed stocks.
Yes. Go get into the weed. Weeds in the weed
stocks. Yeah, I want
stocks.
some weed stocks.
You put the weed in there. Yes, the weed. So there's Aphria.
What's Aphria?
Aphria is surprisingly, it was like a $1.5 billion company.
Well, what part of the weed market are they?
They have like growers and stuff. So they were buying like properties all over the place, acreages, whatever. So this short shop, Hindenburg Research, in partnership with like a couple others, they did like a really deep dive into some of their recent acquisitions. Mm-hmm. And it was funny. So some of there was an acquisition they made in Jamaica, where one of the assets of the company was a building that had clearly been abandoned for years. Like they had went to the building, they took pictures inside and out. Another one was they had like Unit 51 in some complex. The complex only went up to Unit 50. So there was like these guys apparently spent like hundreds of millions of dollars on like a series of these Latin American.
It might be under deep cover. Unit 51.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, that reminds me of a little story. Can I segue to another story just for a second? I worked at GSK. I interned at GSK, mm-hmm. and it was interesting because they had R&D buildings, and I'm paraphrasing here, so I might not get the numbers right. They had R&D buildings 1 through 6, right? And nobody knew where 5 was. Like literally, no one knew where 5 was. I mean, it postulated it was like underneath a parking deck, hidden underground or something. That's where they did the animal stuff.
So maybe it was sort of like in Being John Malkovich, the 7.5th floor. You just have to kind of like stop the elevator midway, and then you can get out. And
exactly, there was a hidden R&D building.
Super secret
R&D. I'm not kidding. There was a super secret R&D building that I presumably is where they did the animal research.
Or they could do bioweapons.
They could be doing bioweapons.
Why not?
Top secret government business. You never
know.
Maybe.
Super soldier serums. Yes. That's where they keep the Green Goblin and super soldier serum.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, but
the government does research into that sort of stuff.
Oh, of course. It's got to be real fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you're not the guinea pig. Or as PETA wants to say,
you might turn
the test
into
tube.
Yeah, you might turn into Bane or something. You know what I mean? There might be some Banes walking around out there.
I don't think Bane had like any sort of super. I think he was just sort of like really ripped and got beaten up in his nose once.
Who is Bane?
No. Bane has to constantly breathe like Substance X, which makes him both super strong and super smart.
I see. Bane is the bad guy in the final Batman movie from Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, go on.
So anyway, Aphria. So this company apparently was buying a lot of these weird kind of shell companies, and also in at least one case, the insiders of Aphria owned some shares in the companies they bought.
I feel like you should disclose that.
Yeah, it seems like, but I believe they're like, well, everything was arm's length and, through the appropriate controlling legal authorities or whatever. So first they came out with a press release just defending themselves, but not actually answering the specific allegations like, oh, yeah, that Unit 51, that's actually, you got the address wrong, or that's, blah, 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 blah. They didn't actually answer anything. They just kind of gave some details on the operations in each country. Like, oh, in Jamaica, we have 22 employees and like 4 hectares or something. Then this morning, they came out with another press release saying they've formed a special committee of the board to investigate the acquisitions and quash all the groundless accusations from these short sellers who would profit from the stock going down. But I'm just thinking, if they kept proper documentation of the whole M&A process, would they need a special committee of the board? I mean, wouldn't they just sort of be able to be like, no, dudes, here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
But no, they're not. And then Hindenburg Research says they're coming out with some more stuff today related to the company as a whole rather than just the Latin American acquisitions. So unfortunately, this is appearing to be a rotten apple. There's a lot of short stories out there or short reports that aren't right, but generally when they get to this level of detail, I rarely see them wrong.
Yes.
When they've actually visited the site, taken pictures, they're showing what the reality is. Because honestly, when you have a public company and public disclosures, you really only see the tip of the iceberg. You have no idea what's really going on. And these guys really took the time and effort to show what's really going on, and it looks pretty bad. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm definitely leaning towards believing the Hindenburg Research guys on this one.
It'll be fun to watch whatever happens.
Yes, but I mean, unfortunately, it's taking down all the weed stocks with it. It's sort of it was a relatively high-profile, multi-billion-dollar weed company, and to be even a partial fraud kind of does make the rest of the industry look very bad, despite the fact that there's a actual secular argument for the weed stocks. It is becoming legal across the U.S., across the world. Growth is going to be very high, obviously, and no pun intended.
And that's the reason why you should exercise extra caution.
Yes,
because the scammers also know this.
Yes. So also you just have to remember, the internet. Yes, it became a really big thing. But, for every Amazon, there were about 10 pets.coms, webvans, all these other companies that you've completely forgotten about, like InfoSeek, InfoSpace, Hotbot. Exactly. You're making that look, and you're like, I have no idea what the heck you're talking about, Max. These companies existed, and they are not around for a reason. So... look, there's going to be some big winners, but it's probably not going to be Aphria. Yeah.
Speaking of other short stories, Memetics is...
Oh, yeah.
The shit has hit the fan, spun around, flung back off, and hit it again.
Yeah, the auditors quit the other day.
Yeah.
So they're trading at $1. I think when we first started talking about it, it was 12 or something. It's just fallen off a cliff. They don't have financial statements. I don't know when the heck they're going to have financial statements. Obviously, if the auditor's leaving, this is Ernst & Young. They're just okay, we don't want anything to do with this whatsoever. We're actually looking into it a little bit more, and we don't like it.
Yeah, you guys, they can't do their job if people are lying to them, so they're like, we can't do our job.
Well, what's funny was, so just going back to Aphria for a second, in one of their defensive press releases, they mentioned that some, they had these financial advisors. I can't remember what their name is. I never really heard of them. Had done the due diligence and said it was a fair financial takeovers of these companies, whatever. So in another case, that same company had, in kind of fine print in an SEC filing, said that they didn't do any independent research on any acquired companies. They just basically take what the company gives them and look through it. Yeah. So it's I don't know how much how valuable that fairness opinion is from that company if it's they're not actually doing real due diligence.
Yeah, the same thing. That's the problem is that at some point you have to take these companies at their word at some level. Right. Well, you don't all have the means to go fly to Jamaica to look at their production site and find out it's just a shack on the beach. And these lawyers and whatnot, probably didn't either. They say, okay, there's no glaring, you're not like obviously breaking any laws based on the stuff that you're telling us.
Yeah.
That's all they really can do.
Yeah, well, they're just like, oh yeah, that's kind of like the fair rate. That's like within the range. Okay, that's fine. Here's a rubber stamp. Instead of like, oh my God, like if we had to look at every property of every client of ours that bought something, oh my God, we'd go bankrupt.
Exactly.
We can't do that.
Or they wouldn't be able to afford it.
No.
Too many billable hours flying to Jamaica and back.
Worst places to go.
It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, Memetics, it's not looking good. Congratulations to all the short sellers on that one.
All right. What else we got, Max?
I mean, not much. I mean, we have markets crashing.
Markets are crashing.
Are they still crashing? Let me see. Because they were coming back a little because of, once again, the Fed was saying we're within shouting distance of neutral, which I'm like, what does that mean, shouting distance? It's like you can shout from kind of far away, and if you have a blowhorn and stuff,
I can shout from one block to another, at least 2%.
Yeah, and then also like what? Okay, let's say we are within shouting distance of neutral. Is the Fed's target actually neutral, or are they going to be going to restrictive? Because they do that. I mean, historically, I know no one, like 70% of the people on Wall Street have never seen the Fed be restrictive, but they have. Mm-hmm. So what does this mean? Anyway, it's probably all too late. But
yeah, it's too late. Everyone, give up, go home.
Well, no, it's like SEC Capital or whatever, 0.72. I hate using that name. They're down like 5.5% in November. I'm sure they'll have like mass layoffs. Like Balyasny's letting go of like 20% of their workforce. So all like the big hedge funds are in kind of not doing so hot right now.
Kind of protective mode.
Yeah, it's like they're in trouble. I'm sure some of the quants are in trouble. The mutual funds, from what I hear, they're just in trouble. They have a large secular trend going the wrong way, which is, well, you have the ETFs. So not only are they losing assets to the ETFs, because the ETFs are almost free, the amount that these mutual funds can charge investors is shrinking. So they have lower assets, lower money that you can charge on those assets, and now like you have a bit of a bear market, so their assets are down even more. It's just like a death spiral, and I don't see it necessarily abating because look, it's just so easy with ETFs. It's like you look, it's like, oh, 14 basis points? Yeah, sure, I'll do that one. Or Fidelity, 0 basis points? Yeah, okay.
Well, I think at some point, just at least as far as theory goes, active management has to kick back in at some point, because if everything is passive, then there should be wild like variances between true value and how things are priced. If Pfizer going up also pulls up some piece of garbage, or vice versa, if Pfizer going down makes some superstar company more cheap, then at some point that discrepancy becomes big enough that an active manager should be able to step in and be like, oh gosh, I have to make money here. It's so obvious.
Well, no, I don't think it has like a negative effect on valuations within indices. It's sort of like, people will be buying the index. So every company, Pfizer and whatever this other company,
exactly.
Go up. But the thing is, you're not going to be able to make it go down necessarily through active management. Where you'll find the actual opportunity is probably going to be in the stocks that aren't in indices, are still kind of mainly traded by people, and won't necessarily just be going up because people decide to buy the SPY.
Okay.
Or the QQQ.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how everything's gone. And so that's the risky stuff.
Yes, the very risky stuff.
Right.
Like the stuff that we usually talk about here.
Yep. That's the fun stuff.
It is the fun stuff. I mean, my God, can you imagine if you're like the 40th analyst covering Cisco or something? How freaking boring would that be?
It's really boring.
What edge are you going to have?
I believe management.
No, their router business was up 2.35% year over year.
Trends. I'm sorry. We shouldn't make fun of other analysts, and I don't know any Cisco analysts, personally or otherwise. So we're not trying to rag on you guys. We actually think you're really smart. So.
No, I'm sure they're really smart, but we are ragging on you because, like, I mean, it just sounds
boring. Come over to the dark side, guys.
Yeah, come to biotech.
Come to biotech.
It's
exciting.
You'll have fun. Yes, there's something new that happens every minute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. And we make fun of the frauds and stuff, but it makes it fun. It's drama. You know what I mean? It's like a constant rolling, telenovela of drama every day of crap that's happening. And if you worked in something like, I don't know, what's the least drama-filled sector?
Utilities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like,
it's like the government sets the rates. Someone was telling me that, so they were either like a utilities or a coal analyst or something. And so they had like these spreadsheets where they had to like figure out like, when their trucks will be leaving Ohio and heading to Pennsylvania because they'll be booking it if they get there by like the 1st of October.
Yeah. So it's just how the numbers show up on the sheet. So it's not even like anything material because who cares if it's a day late?
Yeah. It's just mindless, whatever. Biotech, I've always said you won't get Alzheimer's if you're doing biotech and finance because there's always something new to look at. Like, put down this stupid Sudoku app. Just look at biotech. There's always something interesting on the good side and on the dark side, which is also the fun side. So anyway, I think that's it for us for today. But thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe.
Subscribe and never, ever, ever take our advice.
Ever.
All right. Hey, see you later.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you.
Our theme music is by Hazar.